In this video, we're going to look at different indicators for measuring the economy. How healthy is the economy? That can be an important question for investors and analysts who want to know how well the stocks are doing. Maybe entrepreneurs and people that are interested in starting a business want to know how well the economy is running. And reporters. Reporters are often seeking to answer this question as well. Naturally, government officials want to know how well the economy is doing because voters are less likely to re-elect them in a poorly performing economy. So what are the specifics? Well, people might be concerned with the size of the economy, whether it's growing or contracting. Because if an economy is growing, that means more people might be employed and more firms might be hiring. In a shrinking or contracting economy, you might end up with unemployed people who express dissatisfaction with the government, and that's not great for your re-election prospects. There are two indicators that give us a picture of how well the economy is doing. One of them is called gross domestic product, or GDP, and the other one is the unemployment rate. We'll look at both of those. For starters, gross domestic product, GDP, is an attempt to sum total all of the economic activity in a jurisdiction, for example, a country. Start with measuring consumer spending. If you add up all the expenditures, the groceries, the vehicles, the clothing that people buy, all of that spending is actually someone else's paycheck. So consumer spending is one factor in measuring this output metric. Another one is business investment. Are businesses buying new capital equipment? Are they expanding? Are they opening new factories? All of that can help boost the economy as well. When businesses are investing, they're hiring more people, which will translate into more consumer spending. Governments can spend money as well. They spend money on healthcare, education, national defense, infrastructure, building roads and bridges. That money also flows into people's pockets. They'll spend it and it'll make its way through the economy as wages. Also, some jurisdictions might have natural resources or they manufacture products and sell them to consumers in other countries. Those are called exports. And that factors in as well because those sales to foreign customers represent new money coming into the economy. All of these things added up give you an approximation of the size of the economy. Now, economists like to shorten this into an equation, C plus I plus G plus X minus M, sometimes written as NX or net exports. So that's a pretty good metric for trying to understand how big the economy is. But you can imagine places with larger populations might necessarily have larger GDPs, so it's a bit of a crude indicator. So to give us a more accurate picture, what often happens is you'll take the GDP figure and divide it by the population. This gives an indicator called GDP per capita. How wealthy are individual citizens in a country? That's really what this metric is attempting to get at. You can compare GDP and GDP per capita over time. When it's growing, the economy is growing. That tends to be a good thing. When it's shrinking, and those periods are often called recessions, then that means people will be less wealthy than they were previously. The overall economy is shrinking, businesses won't be hiring. So this can be a useful metric for understanding the health of the economy. GDP per capita, is it growing or is it shrinking? Another measure that is useful is employment. How many people have jobs? Now, that can be kind of a crude indicator as well, because if we think about it, kids don't have jobs. Students, people studying in university, are unlikely to have full-time jobs. Retirees aren't working. So simply adding up the people that have jobs and those that don't doesn't really give us a true picture of the people that want to have jobs that can't find them. That's a useful metric for policymakers. How do we get at that? Well, we call that number the unemployment rate. How many people aren't working that want to be working? Start with taking individuals over 15, the working age. Look at people that aren't employed. So we got to take out the people that already have jobs because they're working. Available for work. So you're old enough to work, you don't have a job, you want to work and you can, meaning you're not a university student, you're not otherwise on disability, and you've been actively looking for work in the past 4 weeks. So all of those criteria are met. We take that number and divide it by the total amount of people in the labor force. That gives us the unemployment rate, the percentage of the labor force who wants to find work, able to work, but can't get a job. This employment rate will go up and down over time. Sometimes there's natural fluctuations through the seasons, and other times there might be shocks and things that cause disruptions to the labor market. For example, the financial crisis in 2008 caused unemployment rate to skyrocket. Same with the COVID-19 pandemic. Unemployment rate went up as people were out of work. Over time, as that number creeps down, that's good. That gets closer to what economists call full employment, when pretty much everybody that wants to find a job can find one. But generally, you'll find the number somewhere between 4% and 6% in countries like Canada and the US. When the unemployment rate starts creeping up past 10%, that's usually a sign of problems. Just to recap, 2 common measures for economic health. 1, GDP per capita. How wealthy is the average person based on the overall sum of economic activity in a jurisdiction? The other one, unemployment rate. How many people are able to find work that want to? Both of these indicators are just an approximation. They give you a picture of the overall health of the economy.